Several hours after being sworn in as the 47th president of the United States, Donald Trump greeted the family members of hostages held in Gaza. Hamas released 3 hostages before Trump's inauguration. 4 more are set to be released on Saturday. However, will the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas hold? President Trump remains skeptical. Joining us to share his thoughts is Jewish News Service Editor-in-Chief Jonathan Tobin. Jonathan, it's good to talk with you again. So does Trump have good reason to be skeptical? What do you expect is likely to happen?
Oh, he has very good reason to be skeptical. This ceasefire hostage deal is almost certain to, at some point, collapse. The way to think about it, it's complicated. Every decent person is overjoyed, or should have been overjoyed, at the sight of those 3 young women who were released amid a howling mob, threatening them when this happened this past Sunday. The problem is that it is basically a ransom payment, and it's contradictory. There's so much that is hopeful about a new Trump administration, his appointees, people like Mike Huckabee. You can go through the whole list of people involved, even his executive orders on the first day defunding UNRWA, the UN refugee group that is basically aimed at perpetuating the war and is allied with and infiltrated by Hamas terrorists. These are all great things. But Donald Trump, on the one hand, his administration, says they're against Hamas. They want to help Israel get rid of Hamas. But this ceasefire deal that he helped broker, and that basically happened because he said it had to happen, because he said he would unleash all hell and on the Middle East, and his envoy not only negotiated with Qatar and other Hamas enablers, but really bullied Netanyahu. Prime Minister Netanyahu pressured him tremendously to make it happen so that President Trump could have the optics he wanted on day one of his administration. But it is contradictory because this deal more or less guarantees that Hamas will take back control of most of Gaza because Israel is being forced to withdraw. It's as simple as that. It's a zero-sum game. So, of course, the ceasefire will break down because Hamas is just going to continue to demand, its right to maintain power in Gaza and to resume the war, the genocidal war that it launched on October 7th, 2023.
Well, Monday in the Oval Office, the president was asked about the ceasefire. He projected a hands-off attitude, saying it's not America's war. So just how involved do you expect his administration and Secretary of State Marco Rubio to be in ending the war and ensuring Israel is supported by the United States? What difference do you expect over the Biden administration?
Well, I am hopeful, and I think there's every reason to be hopeful, that Trump and Secretary of State Rubio will not be looking to second guess, to hamstring, and to stop Israel from doing what it needs to do to defend itself. That's what Biden did. I mean, he always talked out of both sides of his mouth about the war on Hamas, as did the rest of his foreign policy team. I don't think we're going to get that from Trump. Clearly the opposite. But what that means is that, he also wants there to be no foreign wars. He wants this war to end. But the only way it ends is with an Israeli victory, with Israel finishing the job of taking out Hamas. And the terms of this, hostage release deal more or less ensures that that can't happen because the ceasefire allows Hamas to rearm, reorganize, and take back control of those areas that it was kicked out of. In exchange, hopefully, for all of the hostages. But even in the first deal, we didn't even get the Americans out. So there's good reason for optimism about Trump's attitude and his willingness to let Israel do what it needs to do. But with this deal, Israel's been made weaker, and it will resume the war at some point, almost certainly, because Hamas is bound to violate and not make good on the second and third phases of the deal. And the price for this deal will be paid not only in the release of hundreds of murderers and convicted terrorists, which is shocking and terrible, but also in the lives of Israeli soldiers and Palestinians who will be killed when the war inevitably resumes, because because that's the only way that Hamas will be destroyed. Allowing it to stand means Hamas survives and wins, and that dooms the Middle East to repeat the cycle in which Hamas vows to create more October 7th atrocities, and Israel must defend itself.
And what about its sponsor, Iran? I mean, Russian President Putin recently entered an agreement to provide Iran with advanced weaponry, new air defense systems. So is now the time for Israel to make a move against the Islamic Republic's nuclear assets before those new systems are delivered?
Well, Iran is the head of the snake. Iran, which was strengthened by Joe Biden's appeasement and his sending of money and relaxation of sanctions, they created this seven-front war on Israel that began on October 7th, 2023. Israel needs to address that. The United States needs to address that. And again, will be a test for President Trump and his foreign policy team. They don't want to get into a war with Iran. Americans rightly don't want more foreign misadventures, but Israel may have to do something about that. And the hope is, and I think it's a reasonable hope, is that the United States will support Israel in that, give it the green light, back it up, give it the weapons it needs if it doesn't have them now. Let's hope that's the way we're heading, and not towards an effort to sort of allow this ceasefire to stand, forever, so as to enable Hamas to continue to survive and win. And that's a win for Iran. That shouldn't happen.
Okay, we'll see what happens with the new administration. Jonathan Tobin, JNS Editor-in-Chief. Thank you, Jonathan, for sharing your insights. We appreciate you.
Thank you.